Hello.
Hello, hello.
Welcome to Laurent Collective Podcast. And if you're watching on YouTube, we just have to make a statement that this is like the jacket episode, apparently. So Pat has on his shacket.
My shacket.
And I have on my jean jacket. Jacket? No, we won't call that. But I'm not sure how we both ended up in this, but this is what we're wearing. So this is what we're going with. Today, we are here to talk to you guys about something that is an ever-evolving thing in our house.
Of course.
And that is just parenting and being imperfect in it, right? Of like not really feeling like you have to be the perfect parent always. Most importantly,
we want to be the perfect parent.
We want to be, but we're definitely not.
Far from it.
Most importantly, like navigating when you make mistakes with your kids and like what does it look like to make amends with your kids and like ask for forgiveness when that happens, because it's going to happen when they're young. It's going to happen when they're preteens, when they're teenagers, and 100% I know it will happen when our kids become adults as well. And so I think we just thought we would do a podcast to tell you how we do that now and how we navigate it with our kids, but it will evolve, and it does evolve with their ages.
Yeah, definitely.
So I think I first want to touch on like when they're younger. I mean, obviously when I say when they're younger is when they're old enough, at least maybe in their toddler years, to like understand the words "I'm sorry" or something. When they're baby, sure, we can say those things. But obviously when they start to take and understand communication more clearly. Yeah. And those years are so hard. It is the easiest, well, all the years are hard, but it is the easiest years, at least I found for myself, and in particular for one of our children. I won't name names. One of our children challenged me the most during those years. And boy, was it hard for me to hold my cool when it came to that. It was also a challenging time in our life, so that might have been part of it. There's lots of different reasons. But the amount of times I had to let myself cool down and go back to them and say, I'm sorry, Mommy shouldn't have yelled, Mommy should have had more patience, that kind of thing. It doesn't negate that maybe they did do something that was that doesn't negate that. It was my response I was apologizing to. I made sure when I apologized, whether they were comprehending this or not at that age, probably not. But I made sure, if you just hadn't done this, then Mommy wouldn't have responded that way. I never put it that way.
Right.
It was more like, I apologize that I responded to you that way. I didn't even say these words like, will you forgive me? Because I think that is, I would dig into Brene Brown a little bit more for that. That is like forcing someone's forgiveness and that kind of thing. And that's not something I wanted to do. And so that is a phrase that I haven't used.
I think it's just also trying to be genuine in that apology, right? Like that's the biggest thing with our kids, even like as we're talking to them about when they do something to each other or whatever, like making sure that their apology is authentic and real and not just something that you do to then move on. I think that's a big thing for us as well. Yeah.
So toddler years are hard, and it's the hardest because it's almost like they're shaping and forming all the time, but during the toddler years you're trying to teach them about communication, but they don't have the tools to do all that, and so it's not an expectation of them doing it back to you. You'll be surprised sometimes they will model things that you do, and so they may say things back to you when they can finally like pull a whole sentence together or something like that of apologizing or those kind of things. But as they move on into like elementary, primary school, you're able to do it a little bit better because it's more of a two-way thing. And so and when I say when we mess up, it is everything from how we communicate, like whether we yell or something like that, to even just this morning I forgot to send something to school with my daughter. That she was supposed to. I laid it out, forgot it. Like there's things like that are like, that's a simple mistake, but I still need to say, I'm sorry. Like that, I did tell you I would remember it yesterday and I didn't. Like, and I think what's most important for us is that like they understand they're not going to be perfect either. Like they're going to do those things. Coming from a perfectionist, is that hard for you to hear?
Well, I think for in this situation, understanding they have expectations on us, right, as well as we have expectations on them, and realizing we're not going to meet those expectations all the time and 100%, and so being able to identify when you don't, is really important as they're growing up, because then they can see how you're modeling that moment. So hopefully that then they will take that as they get older and realize and understand that they're not always going to get everything perfect, and that it is okay to say sorry and not put out there in the world that you know everything, or you know how to do everything, or whatever, and you don't ever have to say sorry to somebody or things like that. So hopefully that's what we're modeling to them.
And I think it's helpful for them when they're in school at that age too, and friendships and all that, because that is, those are the years that like they're always going to do something by accident or on purpose sometimes too, unfortunately, or with a teacher or something that they, again, if they can see it at home, again, it doesn't have to be perfect, but if they can see you modeling that at home, that they then can do that out in the real world, if you will, when they're at school or in other situations and things like that. And again, I think it's like, we always use the phrase like we're getting ready to launch our kids out into the real to the world. Doesn't mean we're like done with them. I know that's not realistic. However, how do we launch them out in a way that is the most helpful for them in the most healthy way, and that kind of thing. And so it's like a building up of that. And as you go through each of the years, things change. You are going to have different things that are more challenging and each kid will be different. Because that's fun. That's just how it is. Each year will look different. Like there were some of our kids in their toddler years were much easier than others, and that kind of thing. And same as we go through each thing, they're totally different. And so it is, again, just modeling that and showing them like those things are okay. And I think we can say, again, we haven't done it perfectly, but as we have someone who is deep into his teenager years now, is that we're seeing him now do that to us. Not all the time, let's be clear on that, but we're seeing the like, oops, I've responded to mom and dad in the wrong way. And this isn't always immediate. It can sometimes be 24 hours after. Sometimes it is like 5 minutes later. It's like, oh, I'm sorry. I actually didn't mean to say it that way. Sorry. Like that kind of thing. And I honestly do not think that he would be doing that if he hadn't seen us be like, oh, didn't mean to say it that way. And you guys, this doesn't mean we apologize within 5 minute period either.
Oh gosh, no.
Often it isn't till the next day or till one of us, this is not always, like one of us says, did you mean to come across that way? Did you hear how you said that? Or you'll say something that you're trying to be helpful and it totally comes out of your mouth the wrong way and you just want to shove it back in. And I've done that before, or you don't realize it's hit a nerve with your child that you didn't know something that happened at school that day.
Right.
Or they were embarrassed by not being able to do that thing or that new skill or something because someone said something to them at school and then the parent has said something. We're not with them 24/7. So even if you are, you don't know what's like going in their mind. And so it's just that readiness to recognize, ooh, I've caused some hurt here. I'm not sure how I've caused it. And then being willing to like unravel that a little bit with them, right? I think with our teenager, we're finding like having a sit down conversation after like an argument or something, or when he's got heated or we've gotten heated, having a conversation and understanding why it was that way has been eye opening for us because it's often not been the thing we've thought. Yeah, definitely. That triggered that whole thing happening, or vice versa for him. He thought it was something that we were mad about, and it was actually something different that it stemmed from. And again, that's teaching them in relationships later. I mean, well, in current friendships and things like that, you know, like it's important to have those conversations. Not everything needs talk through like that. No. But it's good, I think, to do that. And I think it's just the I don't know. I think there's some different, there's all different ways of parenting, but I think it's just the simple thing that all of us know, like we're not going to be perfect in it. Don't beat yourself up about it, which I have done a lot. And you have too. Yep. Of like, I really messed it up. I've messed my child up forever and eternity. Not true. We joke with our kids, they're all going to have to go to therapy for different reasons. That's something we have said or done 100%. And that is okay because that's what parenting is, and we're not going to get it all right. But it is being. I think also just reminding yourselves of being that age, but also realizing, you know, your kids are going through things for the first time in a lot of ways, in very many, in a lot of different situations. So they're going through things for the first time ever, and
we're in some ways expecting them to handle all these situations perfectly, right? And so realizing that, even for us as adults, we're going through certain things for the first time ever, and we're not going to get it right. So why are we sometimes expecting our kids to get all these things exactly right? And so, I just think it's such an interesting, it's just an interesting thing to think about, that there's no reason to expect our kids to be perfect. There's no reason that we should expect to be perfect. And so that conversation, we just need to be open in that and be real and authentic in our apologies, I think.
Yeah. And I think I would also say with it of what's the right word I'm looking for here, of knowing that as you're doing this, you're going to be looking at your parenting worse than maybe you're actually doing, if that makes any sense. So you're going to be harder on yourself than maybe what is actually happening. And that's really important to take into mind too, of like, give yourself grace too. Like, this isn't just making amends with your children, it's sometimes making amends with yourself. Often it is of like, oh, messed that up. Yeah. And I think like what you were saying too, everything is new for them, but also a lot of this stuff is new for us as parents. Every generation has that, right? Yeah. Like, we're navigating like the whole technology thing with our kids, and it's okay to set boundaries on those things. That is like your role as parents, to set boundaries on things to help them learn as they go. And of course they're going to push up against those boundaries. 100% that's what's going to happen. And it's talking about that and them not understanding why, most likely.
I'm sure you never pushed up against boundaries.
Never. No. I'm sure my parents would say I never pushed up against anything. Right. And so I think even as we're, navigating, we have kids very spread out. And even though we're navigating certain things with Zane right now at the age of 16, those are going to look different when Veda gets 16, because there's going to be new stuff around that we don't understand, new to them, new to her, all that. And so we say that often. It's okay to say that too. Like, we have said that to Zane. Like, we are sorry because we are navigating this for the first time as well as you are. And so that is, and we'll say that to Veda, even though we've done it with her older brothers. It will look different for her because she's a different personality. New things will be around, and we'll have to research all those things again too. Yeah. So it's just, again, being not too hard on yourself, being willing to go on the journey with your kids. And when we say make amends, it doesn't mean that like 100% you guys are okay with each other. It may take time for certain things, depending what has happened and that kind of stuff, or words that were said. It may take time. Your kids can say some really nasty things to you. And I know I did that to my parents too. I'm sure we all can think of things that we said, and talking to other parents now in our same life stage, it just happens. And you've got to let go of that too as a parent, because it is really hard, because if we are trying our best in general, and we're not going to get it right. And it's really hard when your kid calls you out on it, but hopefully they do it a little bit more gentler than we did, but probably not either. Yeah. So I don't know if this is helpful or not. Hopefully it is, of just how do you, when you realize you've made a mistake with your kids, it's how do you find, and each kid's going to be different, how they'll accept an apology from you, how you say I've made a mistake. Sometimes when we've done that and it's happened in front of the whole family, we apologize to all of them so they can see like this interaction happened with so-and-so, and this is actually like, we apologize. We've done that when they've seen us get into arguments too, actually, about something. And then we come back later and we're like, how mom and dad were arguing about that thing? Here's what was going on, and here's how we've worked it out. That doesn't mean we do that 100% of the time, because sometimes it's really not appropriate for them to be involved in that. But there are certain situations where it's okay to do that. And so that you'll figure that out. Yeah. But hopefully that is helpful to you guys. Again, like we always say when we talk about anything about parenting, each child is very unique, and each thing is going to be unique to them. Each parent is unique. Each family is unique. But I think in general, like owning up to some mistakes as parents and not coming across as like, I am perfect and you were always wrong to your child is helpful. Are they going to be wrong sometimes? Yes. Are you going to be wrong sometimes? Yes. But it's coming across as that we're all in this together, and we're trying to work together on this in this stage of life, in this season of life.
Definitely.
Right?
Yeah.
We're trying. That's the trying our best in this.
And realizing they're trying their best as well.
Yeah, exactly. And I love how you said that. Like, it's all new to all of us, no matter if you've parented for years before. It's always a new season and with a new personality. So, yeah. Hopefully, you guys, this takes a little bit of pressure off of you thinking you have to be the perfect parent. I don't think there is such thing. I know there's not such a thing. But it is having a loving relationship with your children to launch them later into life to be able to do that for others. So, thank you so much for listening. And we will talk to you next time.
Bye.